it was really luck, is what happened. I'm an intern for the Children's Nutrition Program, and this past week our executive director was down and one of our partners from Washington University, and they were working on a child survival grant together. And Kara, who's the program director in Haiti, I had asked her if I was invited to the meeting, and she said she didn't know. She'd check, but the morning of, I still didn't know, if it would be appropriate for me to go. So I woke up late, and I was just kind of, expecting not to go. And Kara ran up the stairs and said, "If you can be ready in 2 minutes, we're leaving for the meeting." So I got ready really quickly, and I ran down the stairs. And I considered staying because I had been sick, and I thought that, I might be more helpful entering data or something at home. But I went with them, and we had a meeting in Leogon at the nursing school first, and that lasted from 10 until 12. And then at 12, we realized we only had 2 hours to get to our next meeting in Port-au-Prince, so there wasn't any time for food, which played a big factor later in the fact that we were all safe. So after our meeting in Port-au-Prince, we were all hungry and decided to go eat a late lunch, early dinner, and we were deciding between 2 restaurants, and one now is Rebel, and they've, a lot of people didn't make it out, and the other restaurant, the one we ended up going to, was an outdoor patio restaurant that we were able to get out of very quickly. We could see that the ground was just like rolling underneath us, and it was hard to keep your balance, and everyone was running and screaming and trying to get down from taller buildings, and we saw, soon after the earthquake happened, we saw huge black clouds of dust rise up into the sky, and it became fairly difficult to breathe, and we thought maybe there was fire or something. Later we realized it was just the house is crumbling. Well, what happened next was we tried to get home to Leogon. We had our car, we had our driver, and we, our first instinct was to go home and make sure everything was okay. But we couldn't get out of Port-au-Prince. So we went to a hotel in Pétionville called the Kinam Hotel that was still standing. And our sole purpose for going there was to try to get any information that we could. When we got there, we actually saw a friend of ours who was also there, and had been able to get a cell phone call out to America. And at that point, Ashley, my boss, was able to call her husband with all of our numbers and tell our family that we were alive. The next morning, probably like 4 or 5 in the morning, we set off for Leogon, and we started in the car. We still had our car, and we couldn't get it out of the city. So, and not because of necessarily fallen buildings or anything, but just because of the masses of people that were swarming into Port-au-Prince. We parked our car in front of the General Hospital, which I'm sure some of you have seen on the news. The General Hospital is just completely overwhelmed. There were people throwing loved ones over the fence to try to get them seen, and it was just a wild experience going past there. But we had all decided that morning that if we couldn't get out by car, we would walk. And I guess it's about a 20-mile walk to Leogon. But I'm really not sure how far we walked. I know the area where we got picked up, it's a little less than halfway, I guess. We saw buildings down. When we passed through the oil field, we saw that big bins of gasoline had spilled, and people were looting and standing in gas up to their shoulders. And we saw piles of dead bodies in the road, some covered with sheets, some not. I saw a pile of child corpses in the median. We saw tents and people camped out. We saw people with severe injuries that were bleeding and trying to get somewhere, anywhere, but there wasn't any hospitals. And it was just, everything was destroyed, like crushed. Even the things that hadn't completely fallen where, nobody could go into or get any kind of help from. And as we got closer to Leogán, we saw landslides from the mountains near the road. We saw deep, deep cracks in the earth where the cement had just separated. And it only got worse the closer to Leogán we got. And we knew at that point that, we were terrified for our friends and our loved ones there, because at that point we knew there wasn't going to be much left.